Hello and welcome back to the Deck Architect, the show where I take user-submitted decks and try to see if I can make them a little bit better. Just try to see if I can build up, engineer them for victory, or at least as close to victory as you could get. I am, of course, Hardleg Joe, and today's subject is JJ Squirtle's Gradius deck. I don't know what I'm supposed to say about it. It's a Gradius deck. It's inherently awful, as is often the case when people send me these things. That's not even insulting. They know that Gradius probably not going to be very good. So as I've said before, the role of the architect is not necessarily to make the best deck possible. It's to fulfill the needs of the customer. What kind of house does the client want? You've got to build it to their specifications as best as possible, while also making sure it doesn't collapse on them. Sometimes that's more difficult than others. So what specifications does JJ have? He only has two rules. One, it has to be going second. The spirit of the Gradius Ships are to win battle, and he'd like to win some battles. And two, I want it to still be a Gradius Ship deck, which is probably obvious, but like, don't play 3 Gradius and then do World Chalice combos using the normal monsters. He wants to actually attack and do battles with the Gradius Ships. So that's what we're going to try to do. I've got this deck here, I've built it in Master Duel, and perhaps more importantly, I built it in EDO Pro, which is a place where I can actually do test hands, and we can see what kind of hands this deck produces. Let me just go ahead and make myself a little bit smaller here. We'll just shrink down. And let's go ahead, just to start out, let's do a couple test hands. So already we're seeing some of the major problems with this, right? You want to go second, you want to attack. Well, let's go ahead for once, let's assume. We're gonna start with a 6th card, right? So let's assume our opponent does absolutely nothing. What are we gonna be able to do with this hand? We can normal summon exactly 1 monster, and we can set a bunch of cards. In general, if you're playing a go-second deck that wants to break into boards and attack a bunch of stuff, you don't want to be playing traps for exactly this reason. They don't do anything on the first turn. You want to be going in, making plays, maybe have a hand trap that you can use while they're doing stuff, but actual traps, not really. Let's try another test hand and see what we got. Okay, this is a little bit better. We've got Power Capsule, select 1 Victory Viper, you can activate one of its effects, and we just so happen to have a Victory Viper. What are its 2 effects? It gains 400, destroy a spell trap, special summon an option token, its type, level, attribute, and attack and defense are the same as this card's, destroy it if this card's not on the field. Okay, so United We Stand. Monster gains 800 attack and defense for every monster on the field. That puts it to 2,000, and then we activate this. And the best thing we would want to do is to summon the option token. There we go. 20... Oh, that's nice. Because the token was summoned, it gained the extra 800, and then it boosted itself. Wait, is its token, it's always the same? They're always the same at this card, so it doesn't matter what we do. If we Moon Mirror Shield, this will supposedly go up and down. So there we have something decent. Assuming they had an open field, we would be able to do a solid, whatever 28 times 2 is. I'm not good at math. If I was good at math, I wouldn't be a Yu-Gi-Tuber, alright? Unfortunately, that's not an OTK. And these cards don't really help us. So you're seeing another thing is, you kind of want to play as few space fighters as possible, because any ones that don't special summon themselves are going to brick. Ideally, you want 1 or 2 space fighters, and then just a whole bunch of stuff to improve them. Now, the Moon Mirror Shield is tricky, because I know there are some cards that, well, this one in particular, if it destroys a monster by battle, activate one of these effects. Moon Mirror Shield ensures that you always destroy a monster by battle. United We Stand, not so much, but it has synergy with the option token. Let's do one more real quick and see what we got here. Okay, so we've got the Burden of the Mighty, we've got the Gradius Ship, and we've got more useless traps that we can't do anything with. This would lower something but not by much, usually by 400, and that's probably not going to make it over Gradius. Gradius can attack with Battle and even gain 400 from Forbidden Chalice, but when Gradius destroys something, it doesn't do anything. And so here's what I'm going to start with right off the bat. You say you want a Gradius deck. It has to be a Gradius ship deck. And I'm going to do a little bit of guesswork here, a little bit of assumption, and say you just want these ships, the ones that are themed after Gradius. You don't want to play the actual Gradius, because it's awful. It's a 1200 attack vanilla, and while it does have some support like Gradius options, it's basically the same thing, that it's that effect, except for as a monster that you have to draw. These are not going to do anything. They're actually counterintuitive to the rest of your deck that wants to attack over things by battle. It has lower attack, it has no effects, and it's not going to gain anything. So I think we're going to remove those, but we're going to keep the spirit by keeping the other Gradius-style ships instead. Okay, so while we're here in deck edit, let's go ahead and we're going to start by just removing all the traps. The traps are not going to do anything, they're not good going second, we don't need them. Instead, what we need is board breakers. So, Lightning Storm. This is probably the best generic go second card. Destroy all attack position monsters or destroy all spell traps. Whether they set 5 or they have a bunch of monsters, this is usually good. The only downside is you can't use it if you control any other cards, any other face-up cards rather. But if you're on a go second attack deck, that doesn't really matter. You're not really concerned about the second turn, future turns. You just want to make sure you have this when you can use it to go into it. Chat is pointing out, I'm doing this live by the way, but chat's not on screen, because chat can't be trusted sometimes, although they can be trusted to remind me, unexpected die, not particularly useful when you've taken out your only normal monster. And because even if they're going to summon like 3 negates, right, this baits out a negate. This is one less thing that the rest of your deck has to deal with. So best case scenario, it's a multiple card wipe, right? You're taking out 2, 3 cards for the price of 1. Worst case scenario, it's a 1-for-1. They use a card to get rid of that card, and that allows your other cards to do stuff. Another thing we probably want to consider is Forbidden Droplet. Very nice. Send any number of cards from your hand or field to the graveyard, choose that many effect monsters. Till the end of the turn, their attack is halved, their effects are negated. If you're going to be attacking over things, the fact that this can lower the attack by half, very important. The only problem we might run into this deck is that there's nothing we really want to discard yet. You're not going to have a bunch of things in hand, unless of course you get the Max C. This is for Master Duel, we are playing the Max C, and so you probably also want to play targets that Max C can draw into. While this attack position, machines cannot be destroyed by trap if this is destroyed by battle. I'm going to also say this is also awful. This doesn't work with your win condition, it has lower attack, it's way too slow. Let's get rid of the Jade Knights. If anything, we can put more of these in there because they actually have the attack battle phase. With these monsters, they all want to destroy a monster by battle or battle an opponent's monster. So basically you need your opponent to do 2 things. You need them to have a monster, but you can't have that monster be able to stop you. Dark Ruler No More is a decent way to do that because you're going to be able to negate their effects, but you're also going to negate all damage, and simply clearing the board is probably not going to be enough with this deck. So instead, I think what we're going to want to do is Imperm. A lot of this is adding staples to a deck, but a lot of these staples are good for a reason. Imperm is something that you can activate during your opponent's turn to prevent their effects. So let's say they're playing Sword Soul, if you can maybe stop the normal summon, they might be stuck with a 1700 attack point monster that you can then get over, and then start activating your effects, getting in for damage. And if they don't do that, say they brick, or say they make something and then you top deck this, after you attack, this is something that can be set and will help ensure that they don't kill you next turn. This has the advantages of the traps, while also allowing you to prevent your opponent from building a board in the first place. Same thing with all the hand traps, and you kind of want to play a lot of those because you're playing Max C. You want to be able to drop into them. He didn't mention a budget, but let's assume you don't have a ton of money for URs. You should be able to at least run a whole bunch of one-ofs. Maybe like one Effect Veiler, one Ghost Ogre, we've got the Imperm, we've got the one Ash. Playing one of each of these will allow that, like, as you're drawing, you'll get into them. It'll allow you, again, during follow-up turns, if you don't use it the first turn, you'll have it for the second turn to help grind the game out into however many takes you need. If you have more of these already, you can obviously play like 2 Ghost Ogre, 2 Imperm, but if you're just trying to get a whole bunch of random stuff, you could go with these. DD Crow could also work, especially for the upcoming format. Token Collector, all things to consider. How could we forget Nibiru? Now, Nibiru is going to be difficult because we're going to have trouble getting over the token, especially if it's a big token, but it's still probably better to have one monster you need to get over than, like, 5. I think for a goofy deck like that, it might actually be more fun to play one of each, because then you get the same feeling you have from playing a bunch of these one-off traps, you know? You get that feeling of like, oh, I have a bunch of different cards in my deck for different reasons, and when you do draw the Ash when you really need it, it'll be all the more satisfying. Alright, so after looking over all the ships and reading their effects and kind of calculating, there are some other options, but first things first, you want to play 3 of Vic Viper. Vic Viper, the T301, is like the best ship in the deck. If an attack is declared involving a monster and an opponent's monster, you can special summon this from your hand or graveyard, but banish it when it leaves the field. Also, other light machines gain 1200 attack, which means if you attack in with either of these, you're just special summoning these, and these go up to 24, which means you're going to be able to trigger their effects by getting over them. Obviously, that's really good with Victory Viper, because the option token always has as much attack as it has, so you'll get in for another 24 plus another 12. The Lord British Space Fighter, not really all that great. Being able to destroy a set card is nice. Being able to summon a multi-token is almost the same thing as attacking again. Especially with this, but I think at the end of the day, the better one is Blue Thunder T45. This still, I believe, counts as a Gradius ship. It is a light level 4 machine, which works with the Vic Viper. It doesn't have 1200 attack, but that's kind of what makes it better, is it has 1700 attack, which means with this, it goes up to 2900, which allows you to get just about over just about anything but a Blue Eyes. And then its only effect is to summon a token, but that token has 1500 attack, making it stronger than any of the other tokens that get summoned. It's not great, but it's pretty decent. It's also worth noting there is another ship, the Falcons. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't speak German. And this one, when it destroys a monster by battle, lets you send something to the graveyard. So you can send the Vic Viper, but unfortunately, it doesn't summon itself because you already attacked, unless you have another monster on the field. Now, we can get another monster on the field if we play the gold and silver gadgets, but I feel like those don't add a whole lot to the deck. They potentially allow you to get more monsters on board, potentially allow you to get rank 4s, but I think what you'd rather do is attack. But it is worth noting that if you wanted to go a different way, you could take out the Blue Thunders, put gold, silver, and this, and that might work as a better way for the Vic Viper. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that's probably the much better way to go. But I think we're going to stick with this. So, as it is, let's go ahead, we'll try a test hand with this, and actually this time, we're going to have an opponent. We'll go first, we'll go ahead and let them go. We're going to simulate going second against an opponent who doesn't do a whole lot. Let's just assume, what do they got? They got one monster on board. What are we going to be able to do? With this hand, a whole lot of nothing, unfortunately. We're still bogged down. I mean, we could probably make it if they had a better deck using the infinite permanence so that they're more likely to get to this. But once they do, we've got a Vic Viper who's got 2000, who's got 2800, and then once it's attacking in, it's certainly doing some stuff. We could have given it the Moon Mirror Shield, but it doesn't benefit from that. Let's try another one. This is a much more interesting hand. Again, you see we've got at least 2 tools that'll hopefully, like if our opponent's doing stuff, we can prevent them from getting a whole lot of things on board, And actually, let's just assume, right, that oh, they summoned something, we had to do this. Oh, that just makes them pass their turn. So let's see, this will always have, we have no way to increase the attack, so the Blue Thunder is probably the better route. I'm going to summon this, we're going to ignore the fact that they have that, because, you know, that's what's going to happen. And we're going to attack. That allows us to summon the Vic Viper. They could summon theirs if they had one, but we're going to assume they don't. 29 during the damage step, we get the token. And then, oh, this one gains it too. So 27 and 12. So we're doing quite a bit of damage. If we had a way to put on a little bit more damage, we'd be good. The unfortunate thing about it is that, you know, let's say, for instance, we had the United We Stand. We could put it on this one, but none of these are going to gain the advantage from using it. Because this is going to get all the attack, and this is the first attack. And we have to attack before we can even summon the option token. Let's again try one more. Let's assume they go ahead, we'll normal summon the Maxi. We'll chain a Maxi of our own. They'll chain a Maxi. No one trusts anyone. The world is a vampire. And again, Maxi is a good example of, like, in some duels, activating Maxi can make them end on one monster. Okay, so this time, I think what we want to do is go for the Victory Viper. They've got something lower, so we can Victory Viper, go in, attack over this, and we've got the limiter removal. So we can double our attack in the damage step, get over it, summons the token, and because the token always has attack equal to this, its attack is also the 2400. Now the unfortunate thing about limiter removal is that at the end phase, you're going to destroy all the monsters whose attack was increased. So that goes away, and when that goes away, the token goes away. But we're learning a little bit something. Limiter removal, probably something you want to play 3 of. I know it's expensive, it's a fucking ultra rare, but you're going to need it. Also, probably pays to have some Link 2s you can go into. I don't know if there's any good Link 2s in this deck, but I guess we're going to find out here real quick. Okay, so first things first, let's look over these spells real quick, because as I said, a lot of them not helping us. This gives machines 200 attack and defense, not worth it. This could be really good against, like, Sword Soul. If you were playing in a deck, or in a format where you could side deck, maybe, but I don't think it's really worth it. Moon Mirror Shield, tempting. I'm still going to put that in the side, but I don't think it's necessarily worth it in this format. United We Stand, same thing, because it's every monster you control and you're not going to gain a lot of monsters. Forbidden Chalice, we've already got Droplet, it's just a superior version of that. And while Power Capsule is tempting, it only works with Victory Viper. So unless there's some way to search this thing out that I'm unaware of, I don't think we want to go that route. Instead, I think what we want is more limiter removal. What else do we have here? Psychic Blade. That can give a monster 2000 attack. That might be worth it as, like, the highest amount you can get. And Mage Power, since we don't have a whole lot of equips, we're going to get rid of that. So for now, you know what, we'll go ahead and put the Psychic Blade in there. And then let's go ahead and look at this extra deck. You got a lot of stuff in here that's not particularly good. Well, first of all, as a lot of people are pointing out, you don't really need the extra deck. So something you should probably also consider is Pot of Extravagance. It's either Extravagance or... no, it's gotta be Extravagance. You can also play Pot of Prosperity to try to find a specific one, but it halves the damage your opponent takes, and you don't want to halve their damage. So we're going to go with the Pot of Extravagance, which means this extra deck has to be a lot more streamlined to make sure you can always get the stuff that you want. And in fact, Desires might be better because we're not searching anything out of the deck, and we don't want anything out of the deck. Either one can be good. Yeah, I guess since you probably want the Zeus just in case. Actually, Zeus might not be good in this deck because you're only going to be making rank 4s after the main phase. Maybe you could have it as a bonus, but we're not super about making... you're mostly making stuff after you battle, right? So this might just be the better route to go. You know you can play either one, so that's fine. Alright, so after looking over the extra deck and kind of seeing what kind of options we had, This is what I came up with. Again, we're probably not going to go into it 90% of the time, so if you want to run like a pot of whatever that gets rid of stuff in the extra deck, you could definitely do that and just play anything in here, like literally anything, just as long as it's fodder. But these are a few things that might work. I don't know how Hulk got back in here. Hulk's not supposed to be here. I guess here's the important thing to realize, right? We're never going to get 2 monsters onto the field, except for after the battle phase. The only way to special summon is to special summon this when we attack, so everything you're making is going to be after the fact. So tools like Zeus, tools like Boral Sword Dragon don't really make sense. I guess if you're playing in like low bronze or something, where you can make a Baguska and then attack with it next turn and then make Zeus, that might work. But for the most part, the only thing you really want in here is something like a Baguska, where after you've attacked with your ships, if you realize your opponent's going to be able to stomp you into the ground next turn, and you want to stall, you can maybe make a Baguska and then again attack next turn and go into Zeus. Giant Hand is a level 4 that has a quick effect negate. This can get rid of stuff, this can blow up stuff, this can stop all your opponent's graveyard shenanigans. If they're close to death, Gaga Cowboy can push you over the edge. This can help you rank up. This is immune to spell traps. If your opponent's on a spell trap deck, you could do that. It's entirely possible if we have 2 monsters and then a token that you can make this and then trade with something else that they have left. Unlikely, but you could do it. You could also use 2 of your things and make Hippo Shinnigan, and then when they destroy it, you get 1 of your things back. So there's that. Again, not very great, but at least we have some tools that we can maybe go into. It's also worth noting again, because we have this sort of like secondary version of the deck down in the side deck. If you wanted to go gold and silver special summon, you could make more rank 4s. That allows you to do stuff like Heavy Armor Train Iron Wolf that can attack directly and then go into Zeus on like the first turn that you're able to battle. So that's entirely possible. You can also use this stuff to make like Platinum Gadget, which summons these from the deck, or Verte. If you want to throw in fucking Destroy Phoenix Enforcer, you usually end with 2 monsters, 2 effect monsters. You could just as easily attack in with these, make Verte, go for DPE in main phase 2, and then use that to help clear up things so that next turn you can finish them off with this. I don't feel like it's in the spirit of what they're asking for with the Gradius deck, but it's something you could do. Okay, so all we've got left is these 3 spaces down here, and I think what we need is 1 more go second tool. And I'm going to suggest the Kaijus. Again, you're going to be kind of expensive doing the super rares, although at least in this case, like, getting these are something you'll always be able to use. The low attack actually matters, though, because you want to ensure that even if all you've got is like a Victory Viper and a Vic Viper, that you'll be able to get over whatever you summon. And you can do that as long as you have Gamma Seal. Any other card has too high of attack. But Gamma Seal, as long as you get either both of these, or the Psychic Blade, or the Forbidden Droplet, or the Limiter Removal, you're going to be able to get over it, and this will also get rid of one of your opponent's monsters in the process. So let's do 1 more test hand. Let's say they bricked, they set a card, they end their turn, and you find one of the problems we have with this deck. We do not have a single card that we can actually use to attack. We have 9, so our chances are pretty high, but unfortunately we can't do anything. We've bricked on the hand traps. Now the fortunate thing about this is that even though this looks like a brick from this position, this is a case where, you know, this is going to stop something your opponent does, this is going to stop something your opponent does. If they summon something that's really powerful, getting this stops them from plussing off it, stops them from having the advantage. This might stop something powerful. So with these 4, we might be able to buy ourselves a turn. And if we can make it 1 turn, then we get the Victory Viper. Now whether or not you'll still be able to do everything is hard to say, hard to leg. But we can go ahead and try. We can equip the Psychic Blade. Let's go ahead and pay all the life points, 2,000. Put it on the Vic Viper. Because we want to attack over things, we'll go ahead and Gamma CL here. Go to the battle phase, attack in, hit him with the Limiter Removal, 42, special summon an option token, and the option token has 6,400 attack, so we OTK. It's not the most efficient OTK. It's not going to happen very often, but simply the fact that if they end on one monster, if you can use these to stop them, then this 3-card combo of things we play 3 of, I guess it's a 4-card because you need the Gamma Seal, although if they're playing anything lower attack than Gamma Seal already that can't stop you, then you can do this anyway. You have the ability to do it. We at least have a win condition. It is possible to win. Now, will you get this 3-card combo very often? Probably not, but let's try another bonus deck, shall we? Let's let our opponent do this, and assume this is very early, they don't have a whole lot of stuff. Although, even if they did set, like, the Forbidden Droplet right, we can Lightning Storm that. Even if they did have something, we can do something neat. And actually, here's something neat you can do, right? Activate Pot of Desires, and then you can chain the Forbidden Droplet, sending the Pot of Desires off your field to have the attack of a monster. That way you get the 2 draws, and you don't have to use anything from your hand. And again, we're in a pretty good position. We can go this, go to attack, go in, we're going to summon the Vic Viper, we're going to, during the damage step, hit him with the limiter removal. That's 58, we create the token, and then the token goes in for 37, this goes in for 24, and we've OTK'd again. Yeah, we drew the double max C, which didn't help us, but you can imagine, like, something else. Let's try one more. One more, going second duel, see how this works. Let's assume they did this, and they did all this stuff, and they're going to end on, I don't know, Eldritch and some monsters. Or maybe you're just playing the mirror match. Maybe that's just what you'd like to assume. We're going to go in immediately, we're going to Lightning Storm, we're going to destroy all the back row, and then we're going to activate the Forbidden Droplet to send this to have the attack before the lightning. I mean, in that particular case, we probably didn't want to do it because it locks their attack at whatever half is, but we're still pretty good. Because I'm pretty sure from this position, we've got the OTK. We can Psychic Sword, give this 2,000. We're going into battle. We attack. We special summon the Vic Viper. The Vic Viper is going to boost it up by 12. That's going to summon an option token that has the same amount of attack as it does, which is way more than 4,000, which means we don't even need the Vic Viper, just attacking for 0 damage. So there you go. Again, not the best deck. We're playing literal test hands against something that's not going to interact with us. But if you compare those very first duels to the very last duels, you can see that we're doing a lot more. We've improved this significantly. Now, of course, there is the matter of costs. Let's build this in Master Duel real quick, shall we? So there we go. I'm not sure if you remember the original deck. It had its share of super rares and ultra rares, but I have a feeling that it was mostly stuff that JJ just happened to pull. This is going to require a more concerted effort to build it. You're looking at, like, look at this whole bottom row. Just limiter removal, Forbidden Droplet, Infinite Impermanence, Lightning Storm. You should have at least one of these from the special deal packs. And then in addition to, like, the Gamma Seal, the Pot of Desires, this is like a triple. Now, the fortunate thing about this, right, is that a lot of these are things you probably want to pick up anyway. If you're playing Master Duel and you haven't yet crafted, like, 3 Forbidden Droplet, 3 Imperm, 3 Lightning Storm, 3 Gamma Seal, 3 Max C, and, like, at least a couple of the hand traps, you probably want to anyway. Because those are going to be things that the longer you play this, the more use you're going to get out of these. The more these are going to be useful, especially, I'm sure that future Deck Architect episodes are going to feature these prominently, because they're just such good generic cards. And if you want to play an exceptionally bad archetype like the Gradius Ships, you're going to have to put in stuff like this. Fortunately, we are still playing, like, 2 ships that are rares. We've got the Psychic Blades that are rares. And you'll notice I didn't fill out the extra deck, because again, you don't really need the extra deck. This can be replaced with just about anything. If you don't want to spend ultra rare points getting yourself an Abyss Dweller, like I haven't, you don't have to. You should probably invest in a Baguska, maybe a Zeus, but the rest of this is whatever. And even with the hand traps, right, like there are other options. You can play Droll Lock, you can play DD Crow. There are things you can play that are super rares instead of this. There's also, of course, instead of Forbidden Droplet, you could play Forbidden Chalice. That's always the, like, discount version of this. But it's just so much worse, especially because it gains the monster attack, and you really want them to be halved. Also worth pointing out, the Too Honest, we never really use this. You obviously could, because all your monsters that are attacking are light. You can get this out of one of the structure decks. I forget which one, but it might be worth looking into those to seeing what you get. Either way, I'm pretty happy with what we came up with. Again, you're probably not going to be cracking plat with this, but if you just want to play Gradius against your friends and have a deck that can OTK using the ships, something that's just fun to throw around, there you go. Hopefully JJ Squirtle will have a lot of fun. Either way, thank you for watching. Thank you to the unseen Twitch chat that's been helping me make this the whole time. If you like this and you want to see more of it, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell to get notified. If you want to get on the deck architect yourself, you can check out the Patreon, although it's like a $50 reward, which, I mean, I don't think it's worth $50, but if you want to give me $50 anyway, you can get one of these done too. So go check that out, and until next time, good luck and have fun.